Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Brace for Impact's Extras. I believe it is episode 5.
Who knows?
Welcome, welcome. We've got a special guest with us today. It is the one and only HiyaNoot. Newt, welcome to the
Woo!
show.
Howdy doody, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. Lovely to see your beautiful faces once again.
It's great to have you along.
Oh.
It is indeed episode 5 of Brace for Impact
He's
Extras.
checking in
Oh,
the background
I
while we're
definitely
going.
did not check it while you. Yeah, maybe I did.
Yeah.
Anyway, Parks on the far side as always, and let's get into it. Let's get into it, shall we? So I wanted to ask you, Newt, and I'm pretty sure I might have asked you this before, like when I was in your chat watching some of the Cash Cups. But how did you get into casting to start?
Well, it was actually kind of strange. Well, not really strange. So like before, I was always thinking about, oh, I would love to get into more of the competitive Counter-Strike scene. And I was looking at South Africa and I was like, oh, okay, there's a lot of male events, more male dominated events, and I always knew of some female players. So I was like, oh, maybe I should create a tournament just for female and women players. But then as it progressed, then ESL Impact came around, and then, oh, we're doing cash cups now. And I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. So there's something I can get behind. And then nobody was streaming the game. So I thought, oh, I'll raise my hand. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it on my little laptop. I'll stream these cash cups. It was absolute hell. And then for some reason, I was the only one doing it. Well, there were a couple other streamers as well. It's just I was the most consistent, doing it every single weekend that it was coming around. And then somehow I just ended up taking the mantle of ESL Impact in South Africa, I guess.
Very much so. I think, like, yeah, I remember there were a few streams like in the very early days, and then but then like you were there, and then just consistently all the way through every weekend without fail. You
Yeah.
were on the Cash Cups. It's great. It's absolutely great to see that, including this one that you just came from
Yeah.
one like an hour ago.
Yeah, I
So
just came from one. Oh, wow.
The timing is great. The bow tie is even still on as well. It's just
It never
the
comes
trademark.
off.
That's the
It never
trademark
comes
now.
off.
Is Newt has the
No, this
bow
is the
tie
part of
on.
me. I've grown one on me. It's like it's permanently on. Some people wear their wedding rings into the shower. I just keep my bow tie on the whole time.
You're giving
It's
ESL Impact
that
too much to
meme. You
work
know the
with.
meme that's like the bow tie stays on during blank. You
Oh
just put
my
in whatever
goodness.
activity
Yes.
it is. That's exactly what it is. So
You mentioned a bit there, with the streaming on ESL Impact and all that stuff, that you kind of you started streaming and started getting into casting for the women's scene. Did you have kind of anything before that where you're kind of watching, or is it all like how did you get into the women's scene specifically in South Africa or even globally?
Well, to be honest, I like near the end of when was it? 2021. I kind of got more into watching more of the professional scene and watching all the tournaments. So like I came in very, very late compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I had no experience with anybody else. I had a couple friends that I knew played for some teams. Like I knew Emma Dilemma. She used to play for ATK and then also White Rabbit, blah, blah, blah. So I knew of them. And then I thought, nah. So like I had no experience with streaming, no experience with professional esports. It was just something that just seemed very interesting to me that got me more and more involved and somehow it just kind of escalated out of control. So like out of my hands, it kind of went out of control, but I'm glad it did in the end. No. Yeah.
well, aside from casting, I'd say you've added something that's of just unbelievable value to the impact scene, really overall,
Oh,
and that's
thank you.
the
Thank you.
Power BI stats that you have you've run. So talk to me about when you got the idea and then how you went about creating the Power BI stats that you have.
Well, the idea first came around. So during the initial stages of these cash cups, it was a lot of new players coming in that had never played competitively before. And a lot of them were my friends and stuff like that. So they were playing up against people that have been playing for quite a while and were like global elites. Because like back then, when ESL Impact first started, that was like the benchmark. If you're global elites, then you'd win. And if you had like an org behind you, you were quite dominant. So that was kind of the thing. And as I started to see a lot of the players were feeling like, no, I'm not good enough. I didn't play well or whatever. But I always knew, oh, there are always some numbers behind, and at least that gives a visual metric or something that a player can get behind and say, oh, I did very well in opening kills. Even though I didn't get a lot of frags in general, I did a lot of opening kills and I won a lot of those duels and etc. etc. So there's little nuances in stats that actually can uplift the morale of a player in particular. So because the common misconception with a lot of players is, well, especially new players coming into the competitive scene, is that the primary goal is kills and that's it. Not utility, not anything. Your status in a team is dependent on kills, and that's pretty much it, which is definitely not the case, as everybody knows. That's more involved in the competitive scene and watched a bit more pro Counter-Strike. It's not necessarily about the kills. There's other things behind it that I knew that stats could actually bring about and showcase towards these players that have this misconception. And that kind of ushered a lot more players to stay onto the scene. So I wanted to ensure the integrity of the scene, because like the first Cash Cup we had, I remember we had like 8 teams or something ridiculous, and it was nuts. And then the next one there was like 4, and I was like, oh no, this is bad. Then I started to get the ball rolling, and then after the first initial stats dashboard I made up very quickly came out, then more teams came back in, which was like, oh wow, great. And yeah, so then it kind of was hoping to push them on to do a bit further, but then after season 1, then a lot of teams had to disband and all this jazz. And then with Girl Gamer coming around, then we got some more players in. But otherwise, yeah, the reason why this came about was mostly just to improve the morale and then make some players be more ambitious of the future and not be like, oh, the current whatever stats they got for this map is determinant of the entire future. So one game doesn't determine the rest of the games that they have. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I hope Icy's listening to that too.
That's a shot at an analyst friend of ours.
Listen. It had to be said. Go ahead, Bart.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, have you had players come to you and be like, hey, thank you for running these stats? Like, it was really cool to see this about my playstyle, or this about. Have you had those kind of interactions with players, being like, man, it's crazy to see that I'm actually really good at getting opening kills. I never noticed that before.
No, that was exactly what happened. Literally the first day I ever released it to the public, and then I just got so many DMs. Well, mostly of the local scene.
Right.
The players like one in particular I always remember was Nats. She came up to me and said, "Wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much." And she actually helped me get to do more work with Girl Gamer, which we most likely will get on to a bit later. And yeah, so a lot of people came up to me about it, and I was doing a lot for the South African scene. And I think, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Goose Breeder. She mentioned something, and I thought, oh, maybe I should do more international stuff, because now ESL Impact has been incorporated into all these different regions now. So, and I could see for the other regions, they don't have access to kind of these stats or something like that. So then they kind of spiraled into more widespread, rather than being contained into just South Africa itself, and rather go into all scenes.
What did you have? What was, I would say, the biggest difficulty in first setting up the Power BI stuff?
The first, well, it's always the back end stuff. So if y'all see the front end, y'all see the pretty side of it all, but the getting the data was just like, it came in a lot of phases, because it's a lot of, like, it's all new. It's not documented. It's very difficult to find particular tools to use. Like, the first thing I ever used was CSGO Demo Manager. But a lot of the time demos would break and things weren't right. And the process was, I had to put it through CSGO Demo Manager.
Breaking? Don't.
Yeah, Valve
Who
Future
would
Break is
imagine?
wow. Yeah, that's I've spent hours and hours trying to fix the mess from Valve, all the demos being broken and just absolutely mangled in the background. And then having to make a process to do it kind of automatically because it was very, very time consuming. So at the beginning, I would spend about like 30 minutes to an hour on a single match trying to fix all the numbers and stuff like that. But with my knowledge of SQL and automation from my previous jobs and my current job now, I kind of incorporated that into this whole process, which ended up working wonders. So a lot of the stuff is automated, but the initial part to get it to that stage is very, very long and time consuming. Still to this day, I'm still fixing things, adding new things, making it more efficient. It's been quite a wild roller coaster. So like right now I'm using something called Orpi, which everybody has can be available to them. And it's like Python. So I had to learn Python from scratch to figure out how this thing works. And now that's fully automated, so all the demos come in there. Some things still break, but now there's fail-safe. So if it breaks, then it automatically fixes it. So trying to find an issue was very, very time consuming. And in order to find a solution to amend it consistently is the time consuming factors. So like hours and hours and hours have been spent on trying to make sure that everything is perfect at all times. And a lot of the time it doesn't. It's not perfect. Kind of just flops. So then I have to go back and be like, okay, restart this demo, redo it. Okay, what's the problem? Find out the problem and then solve it. So it's a lot of problem solving, if I would say that.
Well, I'm very happy that you've made it as large as you have. I mean, like you said, there isn't a database like this, and one of the big things because of that, like HLTV, they have the big database for all the big tournaments. So you know the land finals and that in season 3 they had the actual group stages, but like we wouldn't see anything for the South African scene, we wouldn't see anything for the Oceanic scene if it wasn't for the database that you hold together, which is really cool on that side. And I mean, like you said, it's an open access thing that anybody can go and look at. Like I can go and grab stats right now from the last 6 months of NA players and say, oh yeah, X is rated the highest in terms of when you put everything together and give it a number, essentially. I mean, we got to change gears here. Speaking of impact, I mean, the bow tie, everything kind of flows together here. Statsman himself was on the season 3 finals broadcast in, well, you were in Sweden, we were in Dallas. Yeah, a little bit of Newt's corner probably was one of our favorite bits. I'm gonna say that it was my favorite bit. Just sitting there enjoying, like, you brought out
watching you
fake
do
nades.
like choo train.
Yeah,
it was
so
hilarious.
good. So good. How was that whole experience? I mean, like I've never cast a land, so it's entirely like foreign to me.
Oh, it was so absolutely surreal. So I had a bit of interactions with in Katowice 2023. So I was supposed to go to Stockholm, but due to visa issues and stuff like that, I couldn't go. So I kind of got a feeling of what the whole production is like. But getting there and being in person is a totally different story. And I wish you guys could experience what I experienced. It's absolutely nuts. I'm like, it was crazy the amount of work that goes in behind it, and everybody is so passionate. It's not a job to them, it's passion for them, which is very, very rare to see nowadays, especially in the working environment. Like that's their job, is to do this. And how passionate they are is absolutely incredible. So like getting there, I was a bit out of my elements. I was like, whoa, okay, all right, there's an actual big camera on a crane. So like one of these big cranes were coming around this whole set like got lights and all this stuff. Everything's hooked up. And it's just like, okay, it's getting a bit very surreal right now. So, but yeah, it is a tremendous experience. I just hope that hopefully when we get more classes in, so it was actually like working with the classes is amazing, and also with the talents and the hosts and the other analysts on the desk. Like even during games, we were busy talking. And that process was kind of foreign to me because like I was like, oh, I just worry about my own thing. But like during the games, you had to really sit down and analyze every single game, focus on it, and help each other out. And that sort of camaraderie just made the whole production so much better. And like a lot of the stuff I did was improvised. So
Yeah.
as you can tell, it was complete out of a whim. So and like watching even the casters, like for me, I go I'll sit at my desk, or now I've got a standing desk, so I stand sometimes now for casting just to get a different feel and how what the casters do, like having to watch Lucy and B Dog as well as Tom and Sam. It was amazing to see, like that's the reason why they are professionals, because that was absolutely sensational watching them. Like we literally left them alone in the production house. So we go into the green room, we just leave them alone in the actual set that they were from when they do the flyover straight to the casters. They
Right.
stand there, they sit there.
Yeah.
They've just got a TV screen in front of them, and I was like, okay, I thought it was a lot more crazy, but it's crazy to see how what they can use with the tools that they have, so to speak. So I just wish that you guys could experience it soon, or even like just watch the production in the background. So I got my fingers crossed. We'll actually go for the next few lands. We actually go in person, so then we can actually get some of your guys to actually get on some of the action. You know.
I think you will be in person for the next event.
I would.
Because I
would love that for Valencia.
Yeah, I think they did last Valencia and Jokoping as well. So I just think Dallas is.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I'm pretty sure they were on site for Valencia and
That'd be nice.
Jokoping.
That'd be very nice.
So
yeah,
somebody might be planning on a trip to Valencia. So
this guy,
maybe
this guy over here.
Yeah, this guy might be planning a trip to Valencia. Somebody's gotten bit by the land bug. Please, yeah.
It's one of those things. Once you go to one event, you're just like, I gotta find my way to the next event.
I need a vacation again to a hotter climate, so we'll plan it out.
To a hotter climate than Dallas?
Hotter climate than Canada. What?
Winter. It's going to be in winter. It's going to be freezing.
Yeah, but a Mediterranean winter is warmer than a Canadian winter.
That's
you have to remember, actually, it's in December. It's in December. It's gonna be probably like 4 or 5 degrees outside here, which means I'll be right at home at about 10 degrees in Spain.
You snowman. You're gonna be fun.
I was dying in Dallas. It was way too hot for me, but that's
honestly. Real quick, because we're off on a tangent, but
yeah.
Friday was hot because we stepped outside at like 8 a.m. and it was 90 degrees and humid, and we're like, oh my god, like. But Saturday and Sunday wasn't too bad actually. So for what Texas can be, it wasn't too bad. But
Benny forgets that I spent the entire day Thursday walking around Dallas and like fell asleep in the park and everything. There was an adventure there that like,
he flew in like hours before anyone. He flew in like he landed at like 9
Everybody else got delayed flights. That's all I'm gonna say. On that point,
I was delayed 30 minutes. And he flew in like 3 hours. He flew in like 3 hours early, and he was like, "Is anybody here?" I'm like, no,
I wanted to get out of Pearson. I had to get out of Pearson. You guys don't understand Pearson, I think I do. It's any Canadian would understand the travel issues there. Anyways, travel issues aside, I would love to see the casting, all the casters and all the talent in Valencia. That'd be so cool. I mean, even just having the players around, like a lot of them end up watching the other games in Dallas. That's super cool. So having the talent there as well. I mean, James Banks was in the back. Heku was in the back for some of the matches as well. So yeah, that was genuinely really cool to see them all. And I like that they have the studio in Stockholm. Like you have a set spot that you can always go to, and you'll always have reliable stuff. By the way, I know another kind of tangential question here. Did you draw the stuff on the chalkboard or no?
No, that was the production team a while ago. Yeah. So I think when I was first going to come on Katowice, they did this whole that whole blackboard with all the detail. I have no clue what most of the stuff means. Yeah.
That's amazing. You're looking behind you. You're like, yeah, that's a formula.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, this thing means something. I don't know what it means. It like calculates to something. And then we got, everybody thought it was fun. So we had some of the analysts. I know apparently Blair is a very good artist. So he was drawing a bunch of things on there. Like I think he drew the CS2 logo or something like that. And molly and a smoke grenade, I think,
That's cool.
on there as well. So it's kind of like just a little fun thing for even the analysts and the rest of the talents to just go around and just draw something on, because it just kind of creates a little bit more childish atmosphere in that sector, which you kind of need.
Yeah, it was a very creative and imaginative spot, which was really cool. Like I said, I really enjoyed the bits, and it was a lot of fun.
So I want to just cast back to Gamer Girl because you mentioned it earlier. And first off, was that your first LAN? Was Gamer Girl Pro Festival your first LAN?
Yes, it was, and it was very terrifying.
Yeah. Talk to me about why, because I know there was a lot that went down, and not all of it was like, some of it was just an unfortunate, like you got hit with load shedding in the middle of the event, I remember, and then
Yeah.
there was also League of Legends and Counter Strike, and they couldn't run
Oof.
simultaneously. So I think at one point like the league ran over, and it was just, there were a lot of different unique problems to solve. So talk to me about how that land went for you, and maybe what you learned from going to that as your first land experience.
Yeah, it was quite an experience. It was my first time, well, actually my second time ever flying. So I got flown out to be there in person, which is pretty cool. So I was assigned the job as kind of like the head admin to run everything.
Oh
Well,
wow.
primarily the Counter-Strike side,
Okay.
but then I ended up also doing League of Legends as well, because the League of Legends head admin was doing work with other things. So we were like, we were all quite stretched quite thin, doing multiple roles, more than we were supposed to be. And it was quite stressful in the sense that a lot of the time there was a lot of planning in the beginning, but a lot of that planning just got scrapped. Like I set up all these schedules for the qualifiers for the main event, and then literally on the last day we get word from the proper Girl Gamer people, and they said, "Oh no, just do this." I'm like, okay. So then it just kind of breaks everything. So, and what else? Like, especially with timings, having the League of Legends, we said, no, let's have the Counter-Strike first, because that's where a lot of the audience is going to be, like, for in person. They want to watch Counter-Strike. But due to the different time zones, at night would be better for the Asian audience, which is primarily the audience for Girl Gamer. And they wanted to actually watch Counter-Strike more. So they said, no, we're going to move all the Counter-Strike games after the League of Legends. So I thought, oh gosh, this is going to get quite hectic. And I don't think you guys didn't even know that a lot of the games like ended at about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I remember ATK that played real late the first day.
Jeez.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the first day was until about 3 a.m. and then afterwards was the whole shooting episode. But yeah, that's a story for another day maybe.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was what, on the way back to their hotel. I think
Yeah.
that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was there and I was helping them out.
Thank
Oh,
God
So that was
you
kind of
got hurt. Yeah.
no, yeah. I was like, oh, I hear the sounds normally. So the guys were shooting at me. I was like, oh, I live in the hood, I came from the hood. Peter Maritzburg is like the equivalent of like the hood in South Africa.
Amazing.
Outside my house, you just get people shooting at you anyway. So it's like, I'm okay. I'm chill. I'm vibes. But otherwise, yeah, the event was quite we wanted to spread it out a lot more, and then also with load shedding. We had the Cape Town's head of tourism there. So he was promoting esports, and he was very saddened to see that Cape Town had load shedding, because they specifically asked if we could cancel load shedding for that weekend. But of course, the government enforced load shedding, so we had load shedding in the end. So it was kind of like a bad look for the head of Cape Town tourism that this event kind of gets paused for 2 hours at a time. And a lot of the time we'd waste like 40 minutes before load shedding, because like we can't play another game because it's just gonna
Yeah.
end near the like after load shedding, we can't adjust
Yeah.
for times there. So there's a lot of factors that came into play, but otherwise at the end, even though there was a lot of setbacks in the event, I think it was actually a pretty good event. Viewership wise, it was very good. And for first LAN experience, I know I was working that LAN, like literally every hour of every day I was working. It was an amazing experience. Just to get that little bit of taste of competitive LAN experience it meant the world to me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. I want to ask what's going to be our penultimate question, Parks, unless if you'll let me.
Yeah, go for it.
But obviously there was the recent merger with I shouldn't say recent merger because they've been merged for over a year, but the announcement that
Yeah.
ESCA is moving over into or basically being consumed by Faceit, and everything's being played on Faceit now. We just came from the first Cash Cup. How was it? And I know, like, obviously, for those that don't know, their ESCA had servers in South Africa, but Faceit don't, and they didn't transfer the servers over to Faceit. So
Mm.
the first Cash Cup had to be played on or European servers. So obviously that's a significant challenge unique to South Africa, right? And obviously we've talked about load shedding that is as well. What are the other issues that you think esports in South Africa faces that are very unique to the region in terms of maybe getting the teams up to an internationally competitive standard where we see them at LAN again, aside from the fact that they haven't been given a qualifier spot, but that they can compete at an international LAN again?
Well, it also kind of seems to some of the smaller scenes as well as Oceania, because these scenes, they kind of feel a bit more of neglect. Not really neglect. They do get their cash cups, but there's no security of if they will have the opportunity to compete in lands. And especially with like this weekend, with South Africa not even having servers to play in a cash cup, which is like was apparently used to be a normal thing on ESA, but now it's kind of a setback. And a lot of players are like, is this even worth it having to play on these very, very bad ping servers and like getting like scraps, kind of in that sense, kind of getting fed the scraps compared to all the other scenes. And yes, South Africa is a small scene, and there's the only way to grow it is if we have people that are committed to the evolution and the growth of it. So I was actually kind of happy that a lot of players fizzled out. Like, it's sad to see players go and teams go, but what is left is like the raw players that want this to succeed and they are very passionate about it. But it's heartbreaking to see that things like this, like just not even having servers available to play a cash cup, is kind of very demoralizing for a scene, for all the ambitions to compete at an international stage. Like, there's even talks now with potential talks of some teams moving to America, but it's like very, very difficult because a lot of these players are still in school, still in university. They don't have citizenship, so like citizenship's an issue. Visas are definitely an issue in South Africa. Trying to get visas is an absolute nightmare out of everything compared to all the other countries. Like, our infrastructure is just not great and not built up enough to allow for people just to like freely just go to another country just for a bit, and the whole system is just very, very archaic and very slow. So those kind of compounded issues just kind of they do demoralize the scene quite a bit. And not having a sense of security of what the scene's going to have, especially for a small scene, is waning on the players a lot. And it's just very, very difficult to kind of keep the morale high. So I get like messages a lot of the time from players, oh, are we going to have a wildcard spot? Are we going to have this? Are we going to have that? And I get the same information that everybody does, but I just try to keep the morale very, very high. Like, I'm very optimistic that eventually every single scene will have a spot in ESI Impact on the LAN stage. depending on if it will be more teams competing at the finals, or we have more of a group stage where we're all together in like kind of like a back room, not on like the main stage, but we're all on LAN competing, kind of like that. So only time will tell when that will happen. But mostly having the issues with kind of feeling like we've been handed scraps is very, very difficult. And especially with load shedding coming into play. Some teams use it as a bit of an excuse sometimes, but as like during the initial stages of ESL Impact, teams had about like 10 players for one roster. Not two teams. They had 10 players for one roster, but they couldn't even play even when load shedding was happening because a lot of them were in the same region or same location where load shedding was happening. So it was very, very difficult to distinguish a proper time when everybody can play. Near the recent times when there is load shedding, we kind of cooperate with each other and say, okay, we're having load shedding, can we do it at this time rather? Or we'll play with a substitute. It's gone a lot better, but at the initial stages, people were using it as an excuse. But nowadays, when it happens, it's very rare that teams are not able to play entirely because due to the small nature of the community now, they're able to talk with each other and say, okay, can we arrange a time rather? It does stop the flow a bit and is a bit demoralizing for some players. Like, oh, I need to. So, like, the player mindset is you kind of want your player to be at like the, what do you call it again? The flow state
Right.
at all times.
Yeah.
And to have something playing in the back of your mind, like, oh, I'm about to have load shedding in an hour. I need to finish this game. You're not going to play the same as if you're going to play on your best. And to have that kind of mindset really will play a factor if you go onto a LAN stage when there won't be load shedding or anything. You kind of been like, okay, I've got something playing or nagging in the back of my mind that's going to affect my game, even though there's nothing there. And even today, having this ping issues, you could notice a lot of the players were buying Novas, XMs, P90s. They were going all out on guns that are ping resistant, so ping killers. So that kind of mindset is a bit difficult, especially so having, I know we're supposed to be a first world country, but it feels like we're second, third, fourth world at this rate. But having the ability to even play and compete would be very beneficial for the scene as a whole to keep it growing or to keep it maintain it at this level. For me to even just try my best to make sure we have the consistent top teams of ATK, Varbin, and WRA. It's been an absolute challenge, but I've been so glad to see we've got Evasive. We got another team as well. I can't remember the name. Don't berate me for that for not remembering. But there's a few other teams on the back burner as well. So that kind of morale needs to be upheld with all these issues that we have, like with servers, load shedding, and just South Africa in general. I know recently we had the IESF qualifiers. Yeah.
Big improvement from last year where you
Yeah.
had qualifier.
Yeah, our qualifiers. So if anybody doesn't know, apparently there were qualifiers that nobody knew about.
Yep.
But it's because due to our WAS government, so esports is held under MSSA. Hopefully they don't watch this because they were the head of board games for the government.
Okay.
They manage all board games, so chess.
Okay.
And apparently esports falls under board games, so they took over.
Sure. Why not?
And yes, so well, and then it came out to be that you need to get these certain criteria in order to qualify to play for the South African team.
Right.
But all these requirements are all school level. So you have to compete in esports in schools to get colors. You needed 4 colors in esports for South Africa. You need 4 colors. And the only way to do that kind of is through school
Yeah.
and universities. So universities kind of get the lowdown. So initial team that first qualified, they were actually a university team. They were tied with Tux.
Right.
I think, yeah, it was Tux University. So all the other actual teams had no knowledge of it whatsoever. And then after I asked for some more professionalism from MSSA and more clarity, they threatened to sue me for defamation. So that's what you can kind of see for our great MSSA for
You need 4 colors: earth, wind, fire, water, and heart.
and yeah. Oh, so
Oh
like
God.
all those factors coming into play. So there's load shedding, very bad management from our esports governing body, and like servers, and just kind of not really neglect. As of late, you've seen with Bravado playing and ESL challenges, it's slowly getting there, but I feel like it's a very, very Counter-Strike was evolving, but they took a step back on South Africa. Like we had Bravado playing, I can't remember when it was. 2014, DreamHack 2014.
Yeah.
That was the last time a South African team played in a major. And the only time that a South African org had a chance to go into a major, they were actually playing in America. So
Yeah.
Right.
it's been a major step back, but now they're finally putting the step back into the right direction. So with ESL Impact, that was actually the first step back into South Africa, which I really do appreciate. But then it kind of took a step back when now there's only one wildcard spot. And now
AKA
it's a
Asia.
toss
It's
up.
just been
Yeah.
Asia
Yeah.
the whole time.
It's just Asia, yeah. So we need kind of a bit more security in what the future will hold, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
South Africa
absolutely.
I
lacks.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We have gone over time a little bit here, but we do have one final
Oh.
question for you. No, you're fine. This happens a lot.
Sorry
with
for
us.
my verbal
No,
diarrhea.
it
Sorry.
happens, trust me. Our episode, Parks and I always
Oh.
are like, episodes would be an hour, and they're always like an hour and 15. They're always the way.
I blame him, but like it is what it is. Final question for you then. So we talked a little bit about struggles in South Africa. What are your future plans, just as a content creator, a caster, a person who is doing gaming? What are your kind of future plans in anything and everything? Anything you can leak.
Well, that's kind
we
of-
love leaks.
Oh, we love leaks. Because the fact is, I have no clue what's going to happen at all. So, like, I know as much as you all do.
Yeah.
Leaks-wise on my front, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing, most frankly. I don't feel like I need to stop. Like, I have a job that I have to go to every day.
Yeah.
So, esports and Counter-Strike is definitely my passion. I'm glad that my current job kind of involves the same sort of analysis that I do for ESL Impact and Counter-Strike in general. So I enjoy that, but it is taking a lot of time out of me. But I would love to focus more efforts onto the esports scene and see what more I can do. Because right now I'm at a point where I'm just refining everything and making everything fleshed out. So I would like to see what I could do more for the scene and help it expand even more. And like talent-wise, I am not too sure because like ESL's got their contracts and stuff like that. So
Right.
stuff that I can't leak.
Yeah, you
and
can't
stuff
leak
that,
those
like,
things, unfortunately.
Yeah. So a lot of the things you only get notice of them quite late down the line. It's not very in advance.
Right.
Only for some people it's very advanced, depending on if you're with like a particular talent agency and stuff like that.
Right.
Like for me, I'm just a little penguin. I'm a little newt.
You're a little newt.
And I'm just ready to go. So if somebody beckons my name or shines the newt bat signal into the sky, I'll be there waiting for my time to newt.
That works. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Newt, thank you very much for popping on. I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate a lot of talking about the South African scene. It's one of those scenes, like you mentioned, they take steps forward and back all the time, but we don't get to hear too much about it, especially in an A. Feels like it's kind of just time zone wise. And like we have some great players here that came from South Africa. JT on Complexity, to name one of the many that have come and gone. Again,
missed
thank you.
them.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Give you a chance right now. Shout out where people can find you. Where can they get more Newt content?
Hey, just HiyaNoot everywhere. So the name above me, right here,
Yeah.
just go anywhere. You'll find me. That's kind of,
Perfect.
yeah, that's where you'll find me. I don't want to
You,
put out too much, but yeah.
I'm gonna go to a grocery
But if
store
you
and ask them for where Newt is.
where's Newt? Where's Newt?
Why?
I need
Why?
He
Just
said
walk.
anywhere.
on my grocery list.
He said anywhere.
Yeah,
Just say
anywhere.
hi
On
Newt.
his grocery list. It's like that SpongeBob meme. It's like to-do list today. Find HiyaNoot. Crosses it out. And it's like, okay.
I use code FLOM, in the grocery store. They took 15% off my purchase. It was great.
Oh my. I wonder if you use code Newt, what you get? Oh, you get like a negative 15% discount.
Yeah, they
'cause
add
I think you're
15% to
insane.
try and help with load shedding.
Yes, that's it.
All right, we're not gonna hold you for any longer. It is kind of late where you are. Thank you very much for being on, Benny. Thank you very much for being here as well. Thank you for the special episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.